My sister mocked my life choices for years, calling me a failure as a dad, but now she's demanding I babysit her kids? Are you kidding me? This is the most entitled thing I've ever heard. I, 31 mem, was never very close to my sister, 33F. We got along okay as kids, but the older we got, the more different we became and the more strain there was in our relationship. She married young, 18, and has many kids now. I got married 5 years ago, and my wife and I have 2 children together. My sister is a Sam and a trad wife and submissive wife to her husband. She believes men need to be the providers and women should stay at home without exception, and she looks down on me for being a SAHD. She actually started mocking me when I married my wife. My wife makes more money than I did when I was working. She was always the breadwinner. I still worked hard and brought money in, but she was a higher earner, and my sister told me I wanted a husband and not a wife with the way I was acting. When she heard I was going to be the SAHP, she expressed that she felt it was wrong. I ignored her and ceased our contact significantly. Now, however, my sister is looking to take advantage of me being at home with my kids, and she wants me to take her kids sometimes. I said no, and I told her she doesn't get to treat me like shit and then expect favors. She tried to dangle a relationship with her kids, something I never really had, over my head. She told our mom, and now mom's involved. She asked me why I wouldn't want to spend time with my sister's kids, and when she realized I knew that was what I was passing up, she mentioned my kids knowing they're only cousins, and then suggested that I could be a positive influence on my sister's kids, so they'd grow up being less judgmental, and she said it would be better for all the kids, hers and mine. I told my mom I do not care if my kids never know my sister's kids. I said actually, it would be for the best, with how my sister and her husband think and act. I said their kids could be talking like their parents around my kids, and unless I'm with them all 24/7, I wouldn't know or be able to correct it. And I also said, I am not taking on the responsibility of teaching them better than their parents are. I said, if anything, that could end with more insults aimed at my wife and me. I said my sister would lose her mind about boys playing with dolls or playing house or dress up, and we have all that here. And I am not exposing my family to that negativity. My mom told me it's very disappointing that I don't care about my own nieces and nephews. Aita, update 1. So, after my mom said she was disappointed in me for not caring about my nieces and nephews, I thought the whole thing would blow over. I mean, it is not like I yelled at her or anything. I just told her how I felt and why I do not want my sister's kids in my space. But apparently, she is not the kind of person who just lets stuff go. She kept bringing it up every single time we talked. She would casually slip it into conversations like, "Oh, did you see the weather today? By the way, it is so sad you won't help your sister with her kids." Or, "How is the family doing? It must be so nice having time at home with the kids, unlike some people who need help." It got old real fast. At first, I ignored it. Like, fine. If she wants to guilt trip me, whatever. I have been through worse. But then she started getting bolder. She called me one day and said my sister was feeling really overwhelmed and that I should at least offer to watch the kids for a couple of hours here and there. She even threw in the classic family helps family line like that was supposed to magically make me cave. I told her, again, that I was not going to do it. I reminded her how my sister has treated me, how she openly mocks my choices, and how I am not about to set my family up for more drama just because she cannot handle her own situation. Then my mom went full mom mode. She started lecturing me about forgiveness, saying I needed to be the bigger person, and that this was my chance to show my sister what real family values look like. I told her that being the bigger person does not mean letting people walk all over you. It does not mean putting myself, my wife, and my kids in a situation where we are disrespected or judged just to make someone else's life easier. I think that hit a nerve because she got really quiet and then said, "I didn't raise you to be so selfish." That one stung, not gonna lie, but I stuck to my guns. I told her that standing up for myself and my family isn't selfish. It is called having boundaries, and if my sister wants help, she can start by apologizing for all the crap she has said over the years. Of course, my mom ran straight to my sister with everything I said. I know this because, a few days later, I got a message from my sister. It was not an apology, though. No, it was more of a backhanded apology, where she said, "I'm sorry if I've ever hurt your feelings, but I'm just being honest about what I believe. I think you're being unreasonable, but I'm willing to put that aside for the sake of the kids." Yeah, you read that right. She literally said she was willing to put it aside, as if she was doing me a favor. I showed the message to my wife, and she just laughed and said, "That's not an apology. That's her trying to manipulate you." And she was right. My sister was not sorry for anything. She was just trying to guilt me into doing what she wanted. So I didn't respond. I figured if she couldn't even offer a genuine apology, then there was no point in engaging. But apparently, that made her even angrier. She started posting these vague things on Facebook about how some people don't understand the importance of family and how sad it is when kids miss out on knowing their cousins. A couple of her friends chimed in with comments like, "Oh, that's terrible. Kids need family." And, "You're such a strong mom for dealing with this." It was all very high school, and honestly, I was embarrassed for her. The funny thing is, I would not even have known about the posts if it weren't for my mom. She screenshot them and sent them to me with a little message saying, "You see what you're doing to her?" I couldn't believe it. She was basically trying to make me feel bad for not giving in to my sister's demands. At that point, I had had enough. I called my mom and told her that if she kept trying to guilt me into this, I was going to stop answering her calls. I said I loved her, but I wasn't going to let her or anyone else pressure me into doing something that wasn't right for my family. She got really quiet again, and then she said, "Well, I hope you can live with the consequences of your choices." Fast forward a week, and guess what? My sister showed up at my house, unannounced, with her kids. She didn't even call or text to say she was coming. She just showed up, knocked on the door, and when I answered, she said, "I have an appointment and no one else can watch the kids, so you'll have to take them." I just stood there staring at her like she had lost her mind. I told her no, that she needed to leave and that she should have called before coming over. She rolled her eyes and said, "Stop being so difficult. It's just for a couple of hours." I said, "I'm not being difficult. I told you no, and I meant it. You can't just show up at my house and expect me to drop everything for you." She got mad and started yelling about how I was selfish and how I didn't care about family. Her kids were standing there looking confused, and I felt bad for them, but I wasn't about to let her bully me into watching them. I told her she needed to leave or I was going to call the police. That's when she finally backed down, but not before shouting, "You're going to regret this," as she walked away. Now my mom is calling me nonstop, saying I shouldn't have turned her away and that I'm being cruel. She even said I was traumatizing the kids by rejecting them. I don't know, maybe I'm the bad guy here, but I feel like I have a right to set boundaries. My wife is 100% on my side, and she says I did the right thing, but part of me wonders if I could have handled it better. Anyway, that's where things are at right now. My sister is still mad, my mom is still trying to guilt me, and I'm just trying to focus on my own family and not let their drama get to me. It's exhausting, but at least I know I'm doing what's best for my kids and my wife. Update 2. A few days after my sister's little unannounced visit, I thought things might calm down. Like, maybe she got the message and would stop pushing. Nope. That's not how my sister operates. Instead of backing off, she decided to escalate. I got a call from a number I didn't recognize, so I ignored it. They left a voicemail, and when I checked it, it was her husband. He sounded all calm and serious, which was weird because the few times we've interacted, he's always been smug and condescending. He said something like, "We need to talk about the family situation. It's time for you to step up as a brother and an uncle." Step up? Really? I didn't even call him back. Then my mom called and said I should have taken his call because he was trying to be the bigger person. I asked her how trying to guilt me into babysitting counts as being the bigger person. She got defensive and said I was making everything harder than it needed to be. She even threw in, "Your sister's husband never complains about providing for his family, and you're over here whining about babysitting." That was rich. I reminded her that my sister and her husband have always looked down on me for being a stay-at-home dad, so why would I want to help them? I asked her why it's okay for them to judge my choices, but I'm the bad guy for not dropping everything to make their lives easier. She didn't have much to say after that, except, "Well, I just wish you'd think about the kids." It was starting to feel like no one in my family actually cared about my boundaries or my reasons for saying no. It was all about what my sister wanted and how I was the bad guy for not giving it to her. The next twist came when I got a text from my sister's oldest kid. She's 12, I think. It was short and sweet. "Uncle, why don't you want to see us? Did we do something wrong?" That one hit me like a punch to the gut. I knew my sister must have put her up to it, but it still sucked. I didn't want to ignore her, so I replied, "You didn't do anything wrong. I just need to keep my family safe and happy, and right now that means setting some rules." She didn't respond, but later that day my sister posted a screenshot of my text on Facebook. Of course, she cropped it to make it look worse, so it just said, "I just need to keep my family safe and happy, and that means setting some rules." No context. Just my words hanging out there, making me look like I was calling her kids dangerous or something. The comments were brutal. Her friends were saying things like, "Wow, that's so hurtful," and "I can't believe he'd say that about his own nieces and nephews." One person even said, "Sounds like he's got some issues he needs to work through." Yeah, no kidding. I've got issues, mainly my sister and her drama. I showed the post to my wife, and she rolled her eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck. She said, "This is exactly why we don't let their chaos into our lives. You can't win with people like that." She was right, as usual, but it still sucked to see my own words being twisted like that. Then things got really weird. My wife was out running errands, and I was home with our kids when the doorbell rang. I figured it was a delivery or something, but nope. It was my mom. And guess who she brought with her? My sister and her kids. I stood there holding the door open, just staring at them like, "What is this?" My mom said, "We came to talk." I said, "No, you came to ambush me." She tried to act all innocent, like, "Oh, we just thought it would be nice for the cousins to spend some time together." Meanwhile, my sister is standing there with this smug look on her face, like she's already won. I told them they couldn't come in, but my mom stepped forward and said, "You can't seriously turn us away. Look at the kids. They just want to play." And okay, yeah, the kids looked excited, but that wasn't the point. I told her, "I've made my boundaries clear. This isn't about the kids. It's about you and her not respecting my choices." My sister finally spoke up and said, "You're being ridiculous. We're family. You don't just slam the door on family." I said, "You don't get to pull the family card after years of mocking me and treating me like crap. Family goes both ways, and you've never acted like I'm part of yours." That's when my mom started crying. She said, "I don't understand how you can be so cold. These kids are your blood." I told her, "Being blood doesn't mean I have to put up with being treated like garbage. I'm not teaching my kids that it's okay to let people walk all over you, even if they're family." My mom kept crying, and my sister started yelling about how I was a horrible uncle and how my kids were going to grow up without a real family because of me. I just said, "This isn't my fault. You made your choices and I'm making mine." Then I closed the door. I could hear them still talking outside for a minute, but then they left. When my wife got home, I told her what happened, and she was furious. She said, "This is exactly why we keep them at arm's length. If you let them in even a little, they'll take over your whole life." Now my phone is blowing up with texts from my mom saying I've crossed a line and that she doesn't know if she can forgive me for shutting the door on my own family. My sister is still posting vague stuff on Facebook, and a couple of extended family members have even reached out to ask what's going on. I'm debating whether I should just block them all for a while, but I know that'll only make them more dramatic. And at this point, I'm wondering if there's any way to fix this, or if I should just accept that my relationship with them is done. Part of me feels bad for the kids, but another part of me knows I can't let their parents' toxicity into my life. It's a mess, and I'm tired of being the bad guy just for setting boundaries.